Welcome to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration Manufacturer Communications Portal, the MCP. The MCP provides an easy-to-use online application that allows you to submit your manufacturer communications to NHTSA. This tutorial will provide you with a run-through of the application to show you how to submit your communications. We will be using a fictitious manufacturer and user to illustrate the steps needed to submit a manufacturer communication. The MCP was developed to allow you to securely submit and manage communication submissions and is now the only means available through the NHTSA website to submit those communications. Only users who have registered with NHTSA are allowed to access the MCP. Your user email address and the password that you set up through your sign-up invitation email are required to log in to the application. If you should need to reset your password, you can do so using the Reset Password link on the login page. On the Reset Password page, enter your user email address. If you have already entered your email address on the login page, that entry will have carried over here so that you do not have to enter it again. Check the box in the reCAPTCHA block. If you are presented with a reCAPTCHA challenge to solve, follow those instructions in order to continue. When you get a check mark showing in the reCAPTCHA block, you can select the Submit button. An email will be sent to you with a link that will take you to a password setting web page where you can specify and then confirm a new password. Your password must consist of 12 to 40 characters and must contain at least 2 numbers, 1 uppercase letter, 1 lowercase letter, and 1 special character, such as a $, ampersand, or underscore, among others. The reset password link you received will only be valid for 24 hours. If the link has expired, simply return to the login page and redo this process. When you are ready to access the MCP, go to the login page and enter your user email address and password. Then select the Login button. If your user email address is associated with more than one manufacturer, you will be shown a list of those manufacturers. Select the manufacturer that you are representing in this session, and then select the Continue button, and you will be taken to the dashboard for the selected manufacturer. If your user email address is associated with only one manufacturer, you will go directly to the dashboard for that manufacturer. If you need to log out of your current session, simply select the Logout link in the upper right corner of any MCP page. If you have any unsaved changes when you select Logout, you will be asked to confirm that logout choice. If you select to continue, you will be logged out and any unsaved changes will be lost. If you select to cancel your logout, you will remain logged in on the current page, and you can then save your changes or continue to perform any other operation within the MCP. If at any time you are not sure about what to do, the footer of all MCP pages has a number of informational links and contact information for the MCP Help Desk. You can also email the MCP Help Desk at mc.helpdesk@dot.gov. Once you have logged in, a help link in the footer can be used to bring up the user guide as a PDF file. The Help Desk contact information is also listed there at the end of the document. Be sure to read through the user guide, as it contains more detailed information on using the MCP than can be presented here. Where applicable within the MCP, Tooltips are available to help understand a particular field or function. These can be displayed by selecting the small blue circle with the letter I. One important note to remember is that your session has a 30-minute inactivity timeout. Be sure to save your work if you expect a period of inactivity that could approach the 30-minute limit. Any unsaved work will be lost if the session inactivity timeout limit is reached. We will now continue with a look at the MCP dashboard. Once you have successfully logged in for a particular manufacturer, you will be on the dashboard for that manufacturer. The dashboard is set up like all of the other MCP pages. Each page has a header that displays the names of the manufacturer and the current user, and has the logout link as described earlier. Be sure to use the logout link to terminate your session. If you simply close the tab or browser window and there are unsaved changes, those changes will be lost. The main section of each page is where your communication submissions are created and managed. And then there is the footer, with the links and contact information as mentioned before. On the dashboard, there are two buttons. One will allow you to create a new submission, and the other will allow you to view the audit trail for the manufacturer. There are also two independently expandable and collapsible sections, one for draft communications prior to submission and the other for submitted communications. The plus and minus symbols on the right side of the title bar indicate that you can expand or collapse these sections. Simply click anywhere on the title bar to switch from collapsed to expanded and vice versa. Let's look at the communications sections first. If there are no communications in a draft state and no communications have been submitted yet, both of these sections will be collapsed when you access the dashboard. If there are any saved draft communications, then the draft communications section will be expanded when you access the dashboard, and those drafts will be listed. In this case, there are no current drafts. If there are no saved draft communications, but communications have been previously submitted through the MCP, then the submitted communications section will be expanded when you access the dashboard, and those submissions will be listed. And again, there is nothing to list at this point. We will come back to these sections once we have created a draft communication submission. To view the audit trail for the manufacturer, select the Audit Trail button at the top of the dashboard. This will include all submissions made through the MCP for the manufacturer. Only the major actions taken, such as creating a draft, saving a draft, and the actual submission, will be captured in the audit trail. We will be able to see those audit trail entries once we start working on a draft. Changes to individual fields on the submission form will not be listed. We will next take a look at the MCP form used for submitting your communications. The form is accessed by selecting the Create a New Submission button at the top of the dashboard. The submission form consists of 5 sections for data entry, along with a button at the top to return to the dashboard, and buttons along the bottom to save the form as a draft, to submit the form, and to cancel all unsaved entries and return to the dashboard. Once the form has been saved as a draft, an additional button will be available at the bottom of the form to delete the draft, should that become necessary. In order to save the form as a draft, at least the communication ID must be entered. The first section of the form is for general information about the communication that you are going to submit. The first field is the required communication ID. This is a text field of up to 16 characters that will identify your communication. The date specified on your communication should be entered in the Communication Date field by selecting the date using the calendar icon to the right of the field. The last field in this section is for a concise summary that briefly describes the information contained in your communication. This field can be up to 2,000 characters long. The number of characters that can still be added is shown below the field. The character count will update as you enter or modify the text. The second section is for specifying the products that are associated with the communication that you are submitting. Selecting the Add Products button will open a window that provides a listing of all products currently associated with the manufacturer. You can scroll through the listing and click to highlight a single product. You can select multiple individual products or a range of consecutive products using the standard list item selection features of your system. The count shown below the listing will help you keep track of how many products were originally listed, how many have been selected within the listing, and how many are currently shown in the listing. Select the Add Selected Products button to add the highlighted products and return to the form. You can close and reopen the Add Products window as often as necessary to ensure that all products that are associated with your communication have been selected. To reduce the number of products in the Add Products listing for easier selection, you can filter the listing using the filtering fields above the product list. Enter text in the appropriate filter fields and then select the filter button to limit the list to those entries that contain the entered filtering text. You can return to the full list of available products by selecting the Reset button. Once a product has been added to the draft form, it will no longer be shown as being available in the Add Products listing. You can select the Cancel button to close the Add Products window and return to the form, even if there are products that are still highlighted. Those highlighted products will not be added to the form. You can limit the number of selected products that are shown on the form by entering text in the search box. As you enter text, the listing will adjust to show only those rows that contain the text you have entered. This can be helpful to ensure that you have included all of the products associated with your communication. Simply clear the search box to restore the full list of selected products. If you need to remove a product from the selected products on the form, select the Remove button on the row for that product. You will not be prompted to confirm the removal. The product will then again be available in the Add Products window and can be re-added to the form if necessary. If you need to add a product that is not shown in the Add Products listing, you can request the addition of the unlisted product using the Request Product Addition mini form that is available by selecting that title bar at the bottom of the Add Products window. Select the product type from the drop-down listing and enter the product information in the appropriate fields. When you have completed the mini-form, select the Submit Request button to send the request to NHTSA. The information that you submitted will be shown at the bottom of the mini-form, and the fields will be cleared so that another request can be made. You can also clear the fields manually by selecting the Clear button. You can close the mini-form by selecting its title bar again. It is important to note that the requested product will not be immediately available in the Add Products listing. The request will be reviewed by NHTSA, and you will be notified by email of whether or not the addition was approved. Save the draft for future editing, pending a response to your request. The next section of the form is for specifying the particular components that are associated with the communication being submitted. At least one component must be selected. A maximum of 5 components can be selected. You can deselect components that were previously selected as needed. The fourth section of the form is for selecting the actual communication document that will be submitted. The document must be a PDF file of up to 50 megabytes. The document file name should be 150 characters or less. Use the Select Document button to navigate your system file structure to locate and select the document. Only one document can be associated with the communication submission. Once the document has been selected, its file name and size will be listed. If you need to remove the document shown, select the Remove button. You will be prompted to confirm removal of the document. Selecting the Remove button in the Confirm Document Removal prompt will remove the document from the draft form. Selecting the Cancel button will leave the document selection as is. The final section of the form is for supplementary information regarding your communication. If the communication contains personally identifiable information, or PII, select that checkbox. If the communication contains confidential business information, or CBI, select that checkbox. Enter in the Comments field any comments or clarifications needed for your communication. If you selected the PII or CBI checkboxes, provide an elaboration on why you selected those checkboxes. Up to 1,000 characters can be entered in the Comments field. The number of characters that can still be added is shown below the field. The character count will update as you enter or modify the text. In order to submit your communication, all fields on the form are required except for those in this final section of the form. We'll now go through the process of completing the submission form, saving it as a draft, and then submitting it. The first time you save a draft, a transaction ID will be assigned to it. The transaction ID is a unique identifier for the draft and will be the link to the draft and later the submission on the dashboard. First, we'll enter a communication ID. Let's use MCP 101. Next, we'll enter the actual date of the communication. We'll say that it was sent out on December 4th, 2017. Now we'll enter a concise summary of the communication. may have noticed that as I was typing, the count of available characters that can be entered was being updated continuously. Now let's add a couple of products to our selected products list. We'll select the Add Products button and then highlight the Test 2 and Test 5 rows and then select the Add Selected Products button. Next, we'll select a couple of components, say airbags and seat belts. Now we'll navigate to the communication document associated with this submission and select it. And then let's say it contains PII but no CBI. We'll enter a comment about the PII. Please be more specific than this when you elaborate on any PII or CBI in the submission. Again, the remaining character count was being updated as I typed. The form is now complete, and we can save it as a draft using the Save as Draft button. A message will be displayed indicating that the save was successful. If we now select the Audit Trail button, we can see the action that was taken on the form, namely its creation. If a print button is available at the top of an MCP page, selecting it will allow you to print the draft form, the audit trail, or the submission that you are currently viewing using the standard print functions of your system. At this point, you can either return to the dashboard or continue to edit the draft using the buttons provided. Let's return to the dashboard. The draft that we just created is now listed in the Draft Communications table. Here we can open a saved draft for editing, viewing, or deleting by selecting the transaction ID, which is a link to the draft. In addition to the static information that is shown in the Draft Communications table, a few notes are in order. First, the concise summary only shows a limited number of characters. If you hover your cursor over the displayed text, the full text of the concise summary will be shown. If you have already associated a document with the draft, a PDF icon will be shown in the document column and can be selected to view that document. And selecting the icon in the audit trail column will bring up the audit trail for that particular draft. The search function can be used to limit the number of items that are shown in the Draft Communications table. As you enter text, the listing will adjust to show only those rows that contain the text you entered, including the full text contained in the concise summary. When you are on the form and have completed your edits and the form is ready for submission, you can select the Submit button at the bottom of the form. If there are any errors on the submission form when you go to submit it, messages will be shown to highlight where any corrections are needed. When you select Submit, you will be prompted to confirm that you want to submit the form as currently shown. select the Submit button in the Confirm prompt to submit the communication. Behind the scenes, the draft will be saved, a transaction ID will be assigned if one has not yet been assigned, and then the draft will be submitted. Select the Cancel button in the Confirm prompt to return to the draft form without submitting. When a draft has been successfully submitted, it will be taken off the Draft Communications table on the dashboard and added to the Submitted Communications table. Once a draft has been submitted, it will no longer be available for editing or deleting. You can limit the number of items shown in the Submitted Communications table by entering text in the search box. As you enter text, the listing will adjust to show only those rows that contain the text you have entered. Clear the entered text to restore the full listing. You can also limit the listing to those submissions that were made in the last 30 days, the last 60 days, or the last 90 days, or you can show all submissions. The default time period is for the last 30 days. You can view the submission itself by selecting the transaction ID in the table. You can then return to the dashboard, view the audit trail for that submission, or print the submission using the provided buttons. You can also view the concise summary for the submission without actually opening the submission by hovering your cursor over the communication ID for the submission in the table. Additional information provided in the Submitted Communications table include the status and the NHTSA ID of the submission. The status will show submitted and the NHTSA ID will show not available until the submission has been received by the NHTSA database system, at which time the status will change to accepted and a NHTSA ID will be assigned. This NHTSA ID will be the reference number for the submission on the public website. Please note that the status is not dynamically updated, but will reflect the current status of your submission the next time you log in to the MCP. When you have completed your MCP session, be sure to use the logout link in the header to terminate your session cleanly. That completes this run-through of the MCP. If you have questions on using the MCP, please review the user guide or contact the MCP help desk at the phone number given in the footer of each MCP page, or by email at mc.helpdesk@dot.gov. Thank you.